So if you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, you know I'm doing this. Or you knew I was doing the act of watching Castlevania while getting drunk. And I want to talk about my thoughts on the series while inebriated. Just because I want to talk about it and I haven't made a video in a while. And I feel like this would be a fun video to do, maybe. Me talking about a thing while intoxicated. For those who don't know, I fucking love Castlevania. Like, I love Castlevania. One of my favorite video game franchises. I've played most of them. And when Netflix announced they were doing a Castlevania series, I was excited. I was very, very excited because I fucking could not imagine them screwing that up. And I don't think they did, but boy, do I feel like they kind of did the anti-anime. So anime, as a stereotype, it's very filler heavy, it's very long and drawn out. This was not, and I knew it was short before I watched it. I know it was only like 4 episodes, and I was kind of upset about that. I wanted so much more, and after watching it, I really want so much more, because it really just feels like half a story. But before I talk about my complaints with the show, I want to talk about the positives. I want to get those out of the way. I want to start off on a high note. So, I think it's cool that they're doing the Castlevania 3 story, because I think Trevor Belmont, like, that not only is Trevor Belmont a cool Belmont, he has more characters to work with in his realm. With Simon Belmont, it's just Simon. You know, with most of the games, it's, aside from the Alucard games or the Aria games, which don't feel like Castlevania visually, there isn't a whole troop of characters. But with this, there's Simon, there's Sifa, there's Sifa, there's Alucard, and there's Grant, who wasn't in this season. But I felt like they could have, if they would have drawn it out and just made it one season telling Castlevania 3's story, they could have thrown Grant in there, introduced him, and have him make sense. But I think it's cool that they did that because they have more characters to work with. And while I think the Arya story line would have been cool to do an anime for, and its art style lends itself to anime and as its own, I think it's wise to do Castlevania 3 because it looks more like Castlevania, you know? But that aside, I do think it looks great. It's a great, the animation isn't too, detailed. It's great animation. It's very fluid. It's very nice. The action scenes are well done. And the dialogue's great. Trevor Belmont acts like a cocky son of a bitch because he is. And it's fucking great. I love it. I think that they made him a little too powerful, but that makes sense because he's mostly known for fighting demons. So to fight people in a bar, it is like nothing. And it's great. And when I had seen in the first episode that Adi Shankar was attached to it, I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. Because for those who don't know, Adi Shankar's done lots of really cool stuff. I'll include in the description some of the YouTube videos, like some of the fan films he's done. He did Dirty Laundry, which is like this Punisher fan film. He did this Venom fan film, which is really well done. He was a part of Dread. For those who really like Dread, he was a part of that. And he's a part of this. Anything he really touches, it's got a really, at least, cool feel to it. And this feels very cool. A lot cooler than, like, fucking, what the fuck was it called? The one where you played as the first Belmont, the 360 game. A lot cooler than that game looked. Like, this feels cool. And while I'm on the subject, I mean, I feel like I really liked that it was gory. I like that they decided to make it gory. They decided to push the fact that we're on a digital platform like Netflix. We can get away with graphic imagery. I think that fits the whole gothic macabre theme that Castlevania shoots for. And I feel like it doesn't feel out of place here, even if the games aren't inherently gory as it is. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good setup. But I think it's too much setup. And I'm going to transition from this into my negatives. So I hate that this thing is so short. I think what they could have done with the show, what they should have done with the show, is done a game a season. You know, if you wanted to just do a digital telling or an animated telling of a story of the game, you should have just done a game a season. You could have done Dracula's Curse. It would have only taken, like, I don't know, 4 more episodes? Like, you could have had an episode anime that was as tight as these 4 episodes. You could have introduced Grant. You could have had him. You could have even had a filler episode talking more about, Trevor's mom and her relationship with. You could have expanded on Dracula more, because in this, Dracula is literally just a sad guy getting over the death of someone's mom, not Trevor's mom, Alucard's mom. Whatever. But you could have had an episode talking more about that, but instead, you focus so much on setting up on Trevor's character, on setting up that he's a badass, even in the face of great evil. He knows what he's doing. He can keep a level head. He's a good leader, which is great to have. But you spend so much time introducing and expositing that I feel like season 2 is going to have very little of that unless you introduce Grant. And what you could have done is made it a little less tight, a little less just exposition, and made it more fun. Because, like, when the action happens, it's great. There's a scene in episode 3 where all of the bad guys, or all of the fucking priests are coming to kill Trevor, and he's like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna do some badass shit. And it's great. And the fight with Alucard is so cool. And the other thing, like, as a fan of Castlevania, I knew who the Messiah was because I love Castlevania, and anyone with a fucking brain would know that's not Dracula. Dracula was in the first episode, so he's obviously probably going to be a good guy. I don't know. But I feel like this season 4 was way too much setup. It was a great setup, and it has me excited to see where they go next, but I feel like they could have done just a tight, like, 8 to 10 episode run of a show where they tell Castlevania 3, and the next season they can do something else. They could even do Circle of the Moon. Circle of the Moon has a lot of characters in it, and it feels like a Castlevania game, and it's a little more obscure. So you could have done this, Circle of the Moon, and then the Arya games. And the Arya games would have been great, because the Arya games are really cool. They take place in the future. You can make it all cybernetic-like and very influenced by cybernetic anime. I don't know. I'm just thinking as a guy who appreciates great video game storytelling and the lore within Castlevania. I feel like you could have expanded on this more, made it one season, and then pulled an American Horror Story and do another season as like a different story that had something to do with Castlevania. But either way, I still think it's great. I definitely want so much more. I hate that it's 4 episodes. I hate that while it is such a tight piece, there's no filler. There isn't all killer either. Like, there's too much setup, and it's a problem. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Castlevania, the anime from Netflix. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Lots of flair, lots of panache, but I do want so much more. Almost a 6, like a low 7 is what it's at for me. If you've seen the Castlevania anime, what are your thoughts on it? Do you like Castlevania? What's your favorite Castlevania game? I'm going to talk about that in a different video, so I'm not going to tell you mine. But what's your favorite Castlevania game? Do you want them to do something like what I'm talking about? Let me know. I want to talk about Castlevania and the anime and the ideas for the show. But I have been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day. I hope you like this, because I don't even know what this is going to be.